the Passport Club meets Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and we have a couple of programs scheduled for the next few weeks that we're really excited about. Next week's program is going to be the folks from Handwash, which is the Haiti project for clean water and sanitation. So we will have past district governors Jeremy Hurst from Grand Cayman, the Cayman Islands, and Kathy Fay from Iowa, who will be joining us to talk about their experiences in Haiti with Handwash and how that project is going, especially during the global pandemic. The other program that we're very excited about 2 weeks from today is with Holger Knack, who's going to be our president of Rotary International starting on July 1st. So Holger will be joining us from his self-quarantine in Germany and tell us about how the Rotary world is going to look a little bit different than what they had been planning. And you, of course, know between the convention being canceled and most events being canceled for the immediate future and time being that there's lots of big changes at every level of Rotary, from the clubs to the districts, and certainly at Rotary International. So we're very excited about Holger, who will be joining us as well in 2 weeks from today, and we'll be publicizing that. I think that's all that I have for now, unless we have any other announcements that I've missed here.
No, I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right. So with that, we're going to introduce today's special guest, and we're very excited to have Jeanne Knopf DeRoche, who is joining us, I believe. Where are you, in Plymouth?
I am, yes.
All right. And Jeanne is a longtime Rotarian, a good friend. Sue and I first came across Jeanne through Youth Exchange, and Jeanne has also been on a number of different international projects involved not only in her community in Plymouth, Michigan, but also in Ghana and other places. But today, especially, we want to hear Jeanne talk to us about her experiences in Ghana, and particularly leading a vocational training team in the district a couple of years ago. So with no further ado, please join me in welcoming, and Liz, want to show everybody how we do applause on a Zoom meeting. Please welcome Jeanne Knopf DeRoche.
Well, I am sharing my screen here, I think. I think we're in business.
You got it.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As Boo said, I'm Jeanne Knopf DeRoche. I'm from the Plymouth AM Club. And I'd like to do this presentation just a little bit differently. And those of you I'd like to welcome, I think there's some interactors on the Zoom call this morning, and I would like to welcome you. And actually there's some of my relatives too, so I'd like to welcome you too. So I want to do this presentation a little bit different in this first part. And the interactors, you've seen this first part because I've done this at some Interact meetings. So instead of listening to me, I'd like you to imagine for a moment that it's not me talking, that it's a little girl from Ghana talking. And let's imagine that her name is Precious. And that Precious just wants to tell you a little bit about her life in Ghana. So this will just be a few seconds, and I just want to let you listen to Precious for a moment. My name is Precious, and I live in Gwa, Ghana. It's a really remote part of Ghana. And I live here with my family and my friends. My life here is kind of simple. I get up in the morning and I help my mom around the house, and then I go to school. This has been my school. Well, my school is kind of, I'll show you my school in a minute. But when I go to school, I have to wear a uniform. We all have to wear uniforms in school in Ghana. I only have one uniform. I wear it every day, and sometimes my mom gets to wash it. And lots of times she's too busy, so I just wear the same uniform every day. I get really excited when the Rotarians come and they give us a new uniform. In fact, every year now I've gotten a new uniform to go to school. So I get a brand new uniform in the beginning of the school year. That's been exciting because sometimes I've had to wear the same uniform year after year, and I keep growing, and sometimes my uniforms have gotten too small. But this has been my school in the past. yeah, I know it looks like a tree, but we'd never had a school building when I went to kindergarten, first kindergarten and second kindergarten and first grade, because, well, they just didn't have a school. So we would just sit under this tree and go to school. And it was really fine when it wasn't raining. But here in Ghana, sometimes it gets really hot. And then in rainy season, it rains a lot. So my mom says I lost a lot of days of school when I was younger because in the rainy season, we couldn't go to school. Things flood a lot here when it's the rainy season. But the Rotarians came and they said, we're going to build you a school. And they did. They did a groundbreaking and they started to build schools, and our moms carried the water and our dads made the bricks, and they built this building. My friends and I, we weren't real sure what this was going to be like. So we kept an eye on them because that was really it was really something to see. And it didn't look like much when it first started. It just looked like a bunch of old bricks, and we were thinking, this is going to be our school. And you know what? Pretty soon it really turned into a really nice school. There were three classrooms in there, and it was pretty nice inside. We weren't sitting in the dirt anymore, and when it rained, we could actually go to school. And we had these really nice desks and chairs. Everybody in the village was really excited about it. In fact, the teachers were kind of mad because the parents kept hanging out at the school and hanging in the windows and stuff. But it was pretty nice. And then those Rotarians, when they come back, we have a pretty good time because usually fun things happen when they show up. And actually, we're never really sure what's going to happen when they show up. And actually, we're not sure why they keep showing up. You know, lots of them are white people. Why do those white people keep coming back to our village? But they do. And then they came back and they built another school, like a great big school. And it was so big. It was like bigger than any other building we had in our village. And it was so big, we gave tours. And everybody came and they toured. There was this great big room there. And we had never seen a room that big in a school. That wasn't a classroom. It was just like a great big room. And it was supposed to have like computers in it. And they told us we were going to have art supplies. We're not even sure what that means, art supplies. But anyway, they told us that was, and we were going to have books. Books. We don't have books in our schools. But anyway, it was a great day. It even had a ramp so that some of the kids that couldn't walk had a chance to get into the school. They called the school Area 5 Elementary School. They called that first school Rotary Clubs of Plymouth Elementary School. So we were really excited that we had a place to go to school. You know, our parents were really excited too. I think they were excited than we were. I don't know why they were excited. They weren't the ones sitting in the dirt all day. But anyway, our parents were really excited. They were so excited they gave gifts to the Rotarians. Here, the most important thing you can give everybody is food, because food is really precious, and we wanted those Rotarians to have something to eat. So we gave them goats and yams and chickens, because we wanted to make sure that they had enough to eat when they were here. And that's the most precious things we could give them. And they gave us some books. It wasn't a lot of books, but boy, we were excited because like when we have reading classes, we would have maybe 10 or 20 people in a group, and we'd have one book. So it's kind of hard to learn to read, but we were just excited to have any books. Then last May, those Rotarians came back and our teachers went to training, and they learned how to have these activities. They were really fun activities. Our teachers were gone for most of 2 weeks, and they learned how to learn with fun stuff, like these sticks that had letters on them. And then they brought them back to the classroom and they taught us how to use them. And we got to play with sticks and learn how to spell. And if you moved the sticks around, you could turn the word cat, C-A-T, into hat, C-A-T. And it was really fun to learn and to play with the sticks. And you know what the greatest thing of all was about all of this? Was I was thinking about my little sister. You know, she's never going to have to go to school under a tree. And she's going to have new uniforms every year. She's not ever going to have to wear a uniform that's way too small for her. And she's going to get to sit at a desk. And she's going to get to have books to read out of. And maybe she's going to like school so much because it's fun that she's going to stay in school. And maybe she'll be the first one in my family to go to high school. And who knows, maybe she'll even go to school beyond that. I don't know. But I do know it's going to be different for her. So my friends and I have figured out one thing, is that in my village, when we see that wheel and we see that Rotary sign, good things are going to happen to us. So thank you for listening to me. Yep, this is Precious. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for everything you and your club does. And thank you for involving the Interact Club in letting us help make the bracelets and write the letters to the children. And yeah, we hope to be able to help in the future. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So let me tell you a little bit about what VTT is and go on. That's the presentation that I did when I go to the Interact clubs, because the Interact was involved in that whole project. So let me just tell you a little bit how this started for me. Real quickly, it started in 2005 with a man that I admire very much and started me out in all of this. I was at a meeting at Bob Gallagher's house and he said, why don't you go to Ghana with me for NID, National Immunization Day? And a month later, there I was in Ghana, immunizing children against polio. And that's when I first fell in love with Ghana and was able to meet people there in Ghana. I also met Sheila Blair Mosley, who has been my partner in this since 2005, has been all the trips and all the things we've done this all together. Which led me to have just a passion for international travel, and led me to being part of 2 vocational training teams. And let me tell you what a vocational training team is. It is, by definition, a group of professionals who travel abroad, either to teach people about a particular field or to learn more about their own. It is a program of the Rotary Foundation, and it can be one way or two way, and I'll describe that. One way means, which often happens, a team goes to another country and teaches people about their profession there, or a team comes from one country and then it comes back from another country, and I'll explain that in a second. A district can have a vocational training team, but also a club can. We've had vocational training teams since they started. They were an outgrowth of group study exchange. Those of you been around for a while remember group study exchanges. Our club has had them. In the beginning, we had one to East Timor, Burkina Faso, South Africa, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and we've had several to Ghana. My first vocational training team was to South Africa. Mary Jeanne Gallagher was a team leader. I was a part of that, and that was in 2012. And it was a two-way, meaning a team came from South Africa here to Canada and the US to study how we taught English as a second language. And then our team here from the US and Canada went to South Africa. Together, both teams then did a training in South Africa. And that's a two-way. We have 2 different teams. I just had to throw this in. When we were in South Africa, we had the opportunity to go on a safari. It was a gift from the South African Rotarians to us. And if you run into Mary Jeanne Gallagher and I, ask us about our very special relationship with warthogs. It's another whole story that I don't have to go in there. But anyway, I digress about our relationship with warthogs. After that, another man that I admire so much said to me, now how do you answer this question? He said to me one day, do you want to do something good for the children of Goa? Now, How do you answer that question? I mean, what answer is there? Out of that question came the two schools that Precious told you about. They sit in the outskirts of the same village. They are the two schools right in proximity to each other. And the two schools were built by the two Plymouth clubs, but the big school that sits in the background was built by Area 5, which is, for those of you who don't, Area 5 is Plymouth, Livonia, and Canton, Northville clubs all together. That big school looks like this. It was kind of conceived by Mary Jean Gallagher, Sheila Mosley, and I, but actually built by an architect in our club, Joe White. Now, all of the schools in that area are built like this. No more 3 classrooms in a row. They're all built like this. The team that I want to tell you about real quickly is the May 2019 Vocational Training Team. This was the team that Paul Sinkog, our governor, was his vocational training team. And I applied to be the leader of that team. And the purpose of this was to engage students in education, meaning teachers in Ghana stand in the front of the room, preach to the kids with limited to no resources. Actually, sometimes they don't have books and they write the stories on the board. We would see kids playing and laughing in the playground on their way to school. They get in the classroom, there's not even a smile. There's hardly even interaction between the teachers and the students. So subcategory was bringing joy to the classroom. We worked with a Dory circuit, and I'll show you that in a minute. We worked just with teachers 1, 2, and 3. And these are some of the members of our team. These are our teachers. First of all, Gabriella Pop, who is from Southgate. Linda Morrow, I'll talk to you about. She's on the line. She's a Rotarian from Windsor Roseland. And then Michelle Draper is next, and she is a teacher from Southgate also. And Kim Ryan is a teacher from Canada, from Our Lady of Mount Carmel. The 3 teachers applied and were chosen to be part of this. They are exceptional teachers. Linda Morrow went along as our evaluator and played a significant part in giving us feedback and looking at what we were doing that was significant in this. I have to add this because this was like a bonus. When Bob Gallagher, some of you know, when he was our district governor, he had an ambassadorial scholarship, and he decided to do the ambassadorial scholarship and give it to a young man from Ghana. And Francis came from Ghana, studied here. Governmental stuff, was an aide in Lansing here, went back to Ghana, and we had heard that he had a good job, but we were out of touch with him since way back then. Got in touch with him recently. He came back here for a visit, and we knew he had a good job in Ghana. His good job was he was Deputy Chief of Staff and Political Assistant to the President of the country. And he said to us right before back to Ghana, "Can I help you?" And we said, "Sure, we'd like to have a meeting with the Minister of Education of the country." He said, "Sure." So here we are a few days before the VTT team in Accra, in the capital, meeting with the Minister of Education, telling him about the training that we're going to do in the Upper West, where our training was. And he was mad. And we go, "Why is he getting mad?" And he goes, "Why aren't you doing this in the capital? Why are you going all the way to the Upper West and doing this?" This would be, for those of you in Michigan, this would be like starting a big project and putting it in Houghton Hancock instead of Detroit or the Tri-County area. That's all I was mad about. Godfrey looked at him and said, "Because my people are there. That's why." And he shut up and he said, "Fine." But we took this picture and we flashed it to everybody that we saw to show that the minister supported what we were doing, which was significant. So let me show you the project very quickly. The way that education is organized, there is in circuits. So there would be a supervisor over 6 schools, or about 6 schools. These schools are really villages. So these were the 6 villages, and we trained teachers in 1, 2, and in grades 1, 2, and 3. So we had 18 teachers, and we were working with 1 supervisor. So here's Tim. He is teaching the teachers in, these are 3rd grade teachers. And if you look real close, you can see they have little puppets on their fingers while they're working with books. We're teaching them how to bring how to use the books we were giving them, but also how to demonstrate a little bit of puppetry while they're teaching. Here's the sticks that you saw that Precious talked about. They were made actually by the children out at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Elementary School. So they would spend 2 days with us learning these activities. Then we would go into the classroom with them and coach the teachers in those activities. And here we are in the classroom while the teachers are giving the directions. Then the teachers would come back, and here's Gabrielle with 2nd grade teachers, and they are using an adaptation of Candyland, which I don't want to talk about it, but some of you have learned the significance. But we took the Candyland games. They were adapted for math and reading activities by the Southgate Interact Clubs. Then we would take the Candyland games back into the classrooms and coach the teachers on how to use those. And here's Gabe working with some of the children on how to use those activities. We took beach balls and put questions on the beach balls so that after the kids would read a story, and rather than just discussing it, there were questions on the beach balls. The kids would throw the beach balls around. We teach that to the teachers, and then we go into the classroom and observe the teachers as they taught that to the students. Classrooms are also nurseries for the children of the teachers, because there's no daycare for the teachers. Your children come to school with you. I love this picture too. It happened to be harvest time when we were there, and the peppers were just being harvested. So this was the outside of the school, because the school peppers had just been picked and they were sitting in the sun to dry. I love that. So this is significant. Needed to show this to you for a minute. The director, who is a very important man, he signs our memorandum of understanding. He picks the teachers to come. He's the one who says, yes, you can come into my area and you can work. We were working with only 1 circuit. That was the one I just showed you. That's all the people. The director said, I have 11 circuits. I want you to train all my circuit supervisors. I want them all to know what's going on. Hence, Mary Jean Gallagher. Mary Jean Gallagher, many of you know her as a Rotarian from the Windsor Roseland Club. Mary Jean Gallagher is also the former Chief Student Achievement Officer and Assistant Deputy Minister for Achievement for the province of Ontario. So we bring in the big guns for these guys. She talks to them about working with their teachers, about how to create learning environments for the teachers. And then we're going to teach them those same activities that we taught to the teachers that we were teaching to the students. But here's what happened that was so unexpected, that just was so exciting to us. So remember, that's the circuit we're working with. Cephas is the circuit supervisor there. He comes to us. Now, he's been working with his teachers all along. He's been in the training. He comes to us and he goes, let me teach my peers. Let me teach them what you taught us. We never could have anticipated that that would happen, that much ownership would have happened in, and this is just after the first week. So Cephas then is teaching his peers. Many of these are master's level gentlemen. They were all happen to be gentlemen. They're now teaching each other the activities that we taught them. So the unexpected, I call it unexpected sustainability. 3 trainings have happened since we left. So the training that we did has been replicated 3 times by the circuit supervisors and trained teachers. Now teachers from other circuits have been trained in some of these same activities. Circuit supervisors are moved around a lot, so there's new circuit supervisors a new circuit supervisor in the area we train. He has bought into this, is encouraging the use of the activities. Some of the materials that we gave them have been adapted so they can use it themselves. The VTT team that we took, those teachers have bought uniforms for teachers in one of the villages. Both, I have 2010, it was 2019, sorry about that, it's a typo. And 2020, and now they just bought uniforms again. But we found more kids going to school under a tree. And a campaign has started for a new school in Gopala, and over $15,000 has just been raised, which is half of what's needed for a new school. What's happening next? Sheila and I were back there in November. We visited schools. We went to see all those teachers. They are still doing the activities. We went to see the teachers who weren't trained by us, but were trained since we left. They are doing well and still doing the activities. We provided 50 additional teacher kits, and we did a needs assessment with the teachers and the circuit supervisors and said, how are things going? What do you need? They said, which is just astonishing to all of us. They said, now that we're talking to our students, we found out they really don't know how to read. And I think we need more books. So Plymouth AM Club is writing another VTT grant. Those same 3 teachers will return. We were hoping to go in November, but that isn't going to happen. So we're going to go back in 21. We're going to do a training teaching reading skills, and we will be putting 20 computers, not internet computers, computers that have already loaded curriculum on them that parallels the Ghanaian curriculum. This VTT team is being funded by Area 5, by District 6400 and the Rotary Foundation. And I have to mention that the Interact Club, the PECP, which is Plymouth Canton Interact Club, had a Peace Summit in January, engaged the Interact Clubs of LaSalle, Wayne Memorial, and Allen Park. Together they raised $7,000, which will go for teaching supplies, classroom supplies, which will fund some of the books that they were looking for. All will be part of that VTT grant. So when somebody says to you, do you want to do something good for the children of Goa? Watch out, it's going to change your life. So I would say to you, do you want to do something good for children and for yourself? If you're not already involved in international projects, take a look at that. Because not only will it do good for other people, it will certainly change your life and do good things for yourself. And if you ever think that you can say goodbye when you leave, you can't, because you never can leave these children. They always will stay in your heart. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeannie. Everybody is doing their waving right now for you. Let me stop the share screen. Can you hit stop share screen at your end?
And I'm sure I can.
There you go. Perfect. So if you have questions, there's a couple of different things that you can do. You can unmute yourself, and I'll recognize you once I see that you're unmuted. Or you can type in the chat box what your question is, and we have a couple there for you, Jeannie. I don't know if you can pull up the chat box on your screen, and you'll see them, but I'll read them to you. Big Rich wants to know what the duration of your VTT trips were. How long did they go for?
They were. The one in May was 2 weeks, and that's about it. 2 weeks with a little bit on each end. It takes us about 3 days to get where we're going in Ghana. We're in a very remote part. So, and 2 weeks is about the length that the teachers can get out of school. They all left school and took time off to go. So it was a 2 week with a day or two, you know, the weekends on each end. So I can't, you're muted.
What was the amount of the funding that you had for those trips?
The $35 grants, $35,000 grants. When we look at the matching, the district matched 10,000. The RI was 15, and then some local funding.
Then we have a question from Jacob in Indiana. Despite having support from the Minister of Education and the circuit leadership, do you observe any hesitation, skepticism, or pushback from locals who are not as open to the Americans and Canadians coming in to help?
No, and the reason is that our district has been present in this area for a very long time. This education focus is like only one part of a lot of other efforts that's going on in the Upper West. So we already had trust and credibility in that area. If we had not, I think there would have been a lot of other problems. Probably what I was more worried about was them being, the Ghanaians are very, very polite people. They have been, as a country, they have had, they've been dominated by so many other countries in Europe over the years that they have learned to be very, say yes and be very, very polite to you. And when you leave, you know, they go back right back to what they were doing before. I was more worried about that. But I think that when they saw good things happening for their children, and I think the other big thing that we have in the Upper West is that Dr. Godfrey Boucher is from there. His family is there. We are working through him and his family, and we work with his cousin who has been who is a priest in that area and has been the lead community organizer for the archdiocese there. So we already have had a lot of trust built in that area. There was a new minister this year, and we had to gain some trust with him. And I think we just kind of move slowly. We have a very good relationship with the Rotarians in Wa, which is only an hour away, which is a new Rotary Club. We spend a lot of time with them. Many star beers later, we have a great, great relationship with them, I have to say. So it's a good relationship. But if we were going somewhere else, that we would have to take a lot of time to build up all those relationships before we could have the outcomes that we had where we were.
Is the sustainability piece, how is that funded? Is that funded mostly from the local Ministry of Education or the national, or is there having to be funding from this part of the world as well?
No, that's all those ongoing trainings and things, they're being funded by the local ministry. No funding from us. I took some more kits for them, but they know there's no more coming, and they're fine with that because they're duplicating and making things manageable for them. And so none of that was funded by us.
That's great. Linda Morrow, if you can unmute yourself, could you tell us a little bit about the experience from your point of view and you know, your feedback and your comments about it?
Absolutely, thanks. And Jeannie, what a wonderful presentation. It brought back so many incredible memories. Mm-hmm. It seems like it was a lifetime ago, but it was only a year ago or so. And you know, I obviously, you know, Sheila and I have traveled together before. And so when this happened and this opportunity came up, I certainly considered myself privileged to be able to join along. I have an education background, but certainly not teaching like some of the wonderful teachers that came with us. And so I had the opportunity to sort of sit back and help to to look at and evaluate and provide feedback throughout the trip so that we were able to adjust and adapt and have some observations to make it even better. And like Jeannie, I am so pleased and proud of the sustainability part of it, because she's right. I mean, in many cases, whether you're in Ghana or any place else, you can often come in and teach or train people, and then they're very accommodating, but then they have challenges once you're gone, adapting or adjusting or wanting to even continue with some of the things that you've taught them. So it was so encouraging to have the champions. And I think that was key, to have not only us come in there because we had already built relationships, and they were built for a long time. And so there was some trust there. I think the demeanor and the personalities and the nature of the people who were on the VTT team that went in, they were, we were very friendly and open, and it wasn't like us telling them what to do. It was certainly more collegial and looking at what the circumstances that they were in. And once again, the leadership in CFIS and some of the people who just grabbed hold of it was key. And so it was an absolute pleasure. I mean, every event like this and every opportunity is life-changing, and I certainly think it was for me. And just on a personal note, I'll just tell you a really quick story. I certainly, as a Rotarian, I love, and I believe in what we do in terms of going on international and trips and the like. My history a little bit with Dr. Bachia, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Bachia is a neonatologist, and in our local hospital here. And 26 years ago, almost to the day, my son was born, and he was a preemie. And Dr. Bachia took care of him and basically helped to save his life. And so it was my opportunity. I said to Godfrey, okay, paybacks. All right, maybe 25 years later, but paybacks. And so I said, this is my opportunity. You helped me out. And this is certainly my opportunity as a Rotarian to also help out your people. So that's the way it is.
There's no statute of limitations on paybacks. So.
I know.
Thank you, Linda. By the way, Linda, I think your hair looks fantastic. So you don't need to do a thing to it.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Absolutely. Julie Hardy has a question. Julie, do you want to state your question, or you want me to read it? I'll read it. She has two questions, actually. First, on average, how many kids in each class? And second, from where do you get all of the supplies that are donated to the classrooms?
Okay. We saw only one or two schools that had maybe 15 kids in the classroom, and they were just because that was a very small school. Maybe 30 to 40 kids in classroom. And then when Sheila and I were there in November, we walked into a classroom with 100. And really, yeah, she said, really today there's only 90 because 10 kids are absent. And no, there were not 100 desks in that classroom. And that was amazing. So it just depends on the village, and it depends on how many kids are in that. And in Ghana, you start in the first grade no matter how old you are. So if you happen to go back to school, start school when you're 10, you're in the first grade. So the kids in that classroom can be all different sizes and all different ages. So that's another interesting dynamic. And the second one was about where do we get them? I'm sorry, or how are they paid for? I'm sorry. The question was about the resources for.
Where do you get all your supplies? Do you use resources from here?
It depends on what they are. We always would like to buy them when we're there. Now we can't buy them where we're going because there are no stores or things. So like books and things, we always buy there because we want them to be Ghanaian stories. We want them to represent the children's lives there. So we shop mostly at the bookstore at the University of Accra. So we go a couple days early. Sometimes we order them ahead of time and pick them up or have them shipped up. Things like the Candyland game and things, I order in bulk from Walmart, take them out of the box, put them in Ziploc bags, and we take Delta allows us to take 3 suitcases per person because it's a humanitarian trip. We ask them ahead of time. So all of our travelers, all of our team takes 1 carry-on bag with all their own things in it and 3 suitcases filled with supplies. So if it's something that we know that we can't get there, we take it in the suitcases. So if we can buy it there, we do. If we can't, we take them with us. Depends on what it is. So.
If I can mention too, Jeannie said we brought 3 suitcases and 1 carry-on. I want you to think about that for a second, okay? We were going for 2.5 weeks and we put all our personal items in a small carry-on. Okay,
Yes.
That was a skill that we've learned now that I will carry forward as well, because what was more certainly was making sure that all our suitcases were used for the materials that they needed in Ghana. And I do have to mention, just while I have the opportunity, Jeannie is talking and she is really, I think, understating her role as a leader in this, because it was incredible, her role in terms of organizing this and helping us and for those of us obviously who were there for the first time, and just her dedication and her experience to that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Janet Kelly, can you speak to Janet from the Windsor 1918 Club in Ontario, and also has been the district VTT chair and guru. Any upcoming plans for VTTs that you want to mention real quick?
Yes, as Jeannie mentioned, they're planning their return trip, which unfortunately is going to be delayed. And we also have a medical team that is planning to go to Tanzania. And I'm not sure at this point what their end date is going to be with everything going on. But we do have 2 in the works. We also have a plan with District Governor-elect Noel to take a team to Ghana in the central region, not the upper west region. And that focus will be a dental training program. We're looking at developing an educational program to work with the teachers in the community to teach dental hygiene, because there's a huge incidence and actually mortality around dental diseases in, of course, third world countries. So this is going to be the focus. So that's coming up as well. And we've started talking to District Governor, I think it's nominee Aruna, about her plans. So Jeannie and I work together on the VTT team committee, and we try to get the district governors to think ahead a couple of years. Once we know who they are, we start talking to them, because it's critical to understand where they want to go, make sure we can come up to actually get them there, and to also start thinking about a team that we can put together. So it's a very fluid and, I hope, Jeannie, energetic approach to this. And from having been a GSE team leader, if I can just make one comment, I love GSE, but VTT is the way to go. And if your clubs or your districts are not doing it, I would take the opportunity to look at it. Jeannie and I and Sheila are available to talk about our experiences. Dr. Godfrey has taken, I think it's either 3 or 4, I lose track, club-sponsored VTTs into the Ghana region, medical ones. So it is really, I think, the one smart move that Rotary's made in the last few years, and we'd be happy to provide any support or information that we can do. Thank you.
Janet. Sheila, go ahead.
I'd just like to point out, being long in the tooth gives you a perspective. We have been working with Godfrey for over 20 years in this area. So when we say a long time, we're meaning a long time. And it all started out, our first commitment to him was a water well. It always starts with water. From water, you can move on to education and health. And that's where change comes. And so for Rotary districts and Rotary clubs, I think it's really important to keep working in an area and building this. None of what Jeannie was able to pull off last May would have been possible if we hadn't started the district, and 1918 is our mentor, and Godfrey is our he's our role model for service to others. And you go in for the long haul, and it is so rewarding. And when Jeannie says, like, we're going back there, I'm telling you, it is like going back to seeing your distant relatives. We know those people, they know who we are, and we keep showing up. And what it does, I hope, is affirm that they are important people, because they live a very restricted and limited life. For us to come from so far away, and those children have no idea where we are from. Their idea, one of the little gals wanted to know the second last time we were there, and we were talking about maybe she could fly to Accra, the capital. She wanted to know if there were houses in that sky. So when you realize how narrow the scope of dreaming for these children is, we are a big deal. And that is so humbling, because we're just ordinary Joes, doing our ordinary Joe thing. And with Godfrey's leadership and 1918's stick-to-itiveness, we have made a difference in that part of Ghana. And that's where change and hope is. Clean water, education, and decent health care. So that's my little, get off my soapbox now. Thank you very much.
Sue and I went to Ghana, I think it was in 2008, and it was a different part of Ghana that we went to with past district governor, now Michael Dubin, and his wife Shelley, and there were like 24 of us. But Sue, who was governor, of course, in 2016-17, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but she has always said that it starts with basic needs, that if you don't have, and that's exactly what you're talking about. If you don't have clean water or a place to go to the bathroom or the washroom, as we say in Canada, then you're not going to learn, and you're not going to be able to do anything else. You gotta have a meal. You gotta have a roof over your head. So that's why Rotary is so involved with that. And Russ Jones has been urging me to mention that a lot of the funding for these VTTs comes from our district designated funds, which is known as DDF.
Absolutely.
As a result of the District 6400 members' donations to the annual fund of the Rotary Foundation. And he wants to give a shout out to Plymouth AM, which is a relatively small club that has leveraged the power of Rotary, not just globally, but in their community as well. They built a boundary-free playground, and there's lots of activity there. And Jeannie, when are you going to be president of that club?
July.
Oh, okay.
And my second time around, yeah.
All right.
Rerun, that's rerun.
Yeah, Linda's applauding. Liz, you have your hand raised?
I just want to echo what Janet said about GSE versus VTT. Our district had the opportunity to be a part of the pilot program for the new grants model, which seems like ancient history now. But because of that opportunity, we were in on the ground floor of VTT and really have raised it to such great heights, doing a minimum of one and usually two or more a year. And I'm so proud of us and so proud of the legacy. And I think the difference for us, and when you talk about the longevity of Godfrey's, relationship with this district and how he has guided us to lift up his hometown, I think the legacy for our district is that we don't send money places, we take it. And all of our grants really come from personal contact and personal relationships, and not just sending in money. And I'm so proud of us and so appreciative of the work that is done.
Thanks, Liz. Appreciate that. And by the way, Sheila, if you're not looking at your chat box on the screen, Rajan from LaSalle Centennial said, "There's nothing ordinary about you, Sheila. You're awesome in every way." So,
oh my goodness, thank you, Rajan.
Might not notice that, but we all agree with that. Want to just Nikki from Sweden has joined us. Glad to have you with us. Nikki, can you speak to, we're reading a lot about how COVID-19 is being treated differently in Sweden than it is in much of the world that has done lockdowns. Any comments you want to make regarding that and your personal view on the ground?
Hi, everyone. Well, there is a can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Good. Okay. There is a discussion in most countries today what to do or not to do. And actually, no one has the answer yet. But I think Sweden has chosen to go one way, and that is a quite open way. So we want all the people, they can do most of the things, but with a great degree of responsibility. So we have to be very careful with social distancing, and we have closed some of the schools, but not the lower classes. They are open. So today there was a very interesting article in BBC where they look into Sweden, what we are doing compared to other countries. And that article I can recommend, because there you will see the statistics and everything, what's coming out regarding how many fertilities we have in Sweden compared to other countries. But I think we should wait a little bit now and see if when the let's hope final results are coming, and then we can compare. It's a little bit too early, but they have a strategy, and let's hope it's working. But there are certainly tough times in Sweden and in most countries.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Nikki, and thanks for your insights with that and what's going on. Abimbola, you had your hand raised. Did you want to make a comment or question?
Yes, I just want to say thank you guys for going into the remote part of Ghana and help those kids out. I'm not really surprised that the head of the Ministry of Education tried to kick against you going to the remote part, even though the urban part is, you know, well situated to some extent. And I was also wondering, do you know the population of that community? And is it 300 students in the school for 3 classrooms, or 100 for the 3 classrooms?
Oh, every village is different. It depends on when the school was built and where the village is located. So the ones that are closer to Jarapa, which will be the closest thing to a town, you know, in that upper region, some of those would be closer to maybe 250 for 3 classrooms. And then when you go to a more remote village outside of that, you might have 50 for 3 classrooms. So it just depends on where the village is. So everyone is very different.
Oh, go ahead.
Yep.
Sheila, you have to unmute.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, sorry. You have the length of time they have been involved, like the first couple of towns that we are little villages that we put the schools in and supported the schools. They have much larger populations than some of the newer ones. This little Gula, it's the last one on in terms of getting a building. So it will have fewer students than some of the more established schools. And as Godfrey says, we are a victim of our own success, because people start to appreciate that this is a good thing. Education is a good thing. They want it for their children. They're willing to allow their children not to be contributing to the economic welfare of the house by going to school. And Godfrey was able to open up a junior high school in his own little tiny village that he actually was born in. And that's his 3rd junior high school that they had. So when we first started this, there was only 1. And due to demand, because now there were more primary schools, they needed more middle schools. So
And for the first time, just this past year, high school is free in Ghana. And that is brand new. So we're going to hopefully see a lot more kids, although you have to pass a test still to get in, but at least it's free. So now if we can hopefully educate the children in the Upper West, they at least can afford to go. Before, they, even if they got a good education, they couldn't afford to go. Now it's free. So that's new. So that's very exciting.
And if
Now
I
we
can
have to get
just,
some high schools.
yeah, if I could just make a small addition, the other thing we've been doing, as everyone has said, we've been in that area for 20, 25 years, is that we've worked very hard to, every time there's a school, we put in a well so that there's fresh water for the students. The other thing that creates issues for attendance at school is that we try to have a school lunch program, which is not spectacular. It's a little bowl of gruel, but it almost immediately doubles the number of children who come, because for a lot of them, that's the only meal that they get in a day, or maybe only the second meal. So there's kind of it works as a magnet, the schools. So it's becoming the hubs of the communities as we're able to build them. And right now I'm waiting for approval for a grant from our club to dig another 20 or 25 wells in villages that do not have fresh water at this time. So cross your fingers on our behalf that we get this one through and we can start digging wells in the dry season. So thank you all.
Thank you, Janet. And thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Sheila. Everybody who has been so passionate about this project. You know, it's amazing the number of projects that happen in Rotary, because it starts with somebody's passion, or in case of Godfrey, he went back home and he wanted to do something good for the folks from whence he came. And that's how a lot of Rotary projects end up coming to fruition. So applause, applause, applause. Thank you so much to our speaker and to everybody who contributed today. We're thrilled to have you with us. Next week, as I pointed out, we're going to have special speakers talking about Haiti and the hand wash project, which mission is to bring clean water and sanitation to that part of the world. And then the following week, it's our president-elect of Rotary International, Holger from Germany, who will be joining us. And we're going to promote that program, obviously, quite heavily throughout Rotary. If you'll help share that in your Facebook pages with us, and we'll even stream that on YouTube Live and Facebook Live as well, so that we can have a lot of folks. But I want to thank the over 40 people who joined us this morning. Once again, we're looking for charter members of our club. If you know anybody who you think this would be a good fit, meet online and then work in your local communities once we can go back into our local communities from the shelter at home orders. That's what we're looking for that. You can fill out a charter member form at our website, which is 6400passport.org, 6400passport.org, and the dues just $140 per year, which is basically the Rotary and district dues is all we're charging for that. So we need members, and we hope that you or folks that you think would be a good fit for our club will join us. And with that, have a great week, everybody. We will see you here next week for the hand wash. Sue, anything to add?
Do the four-way test, don't we?
Got to do the four-way test. So to do that, we always unmute everybody. Of all the things that we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Second,
Is it
Fair to all concerned.
All concerned.
third,
Goodwill and better friendship. Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thanks for signing it, Liz, and everybody have a great week. We will see you next Saturday morning.